Your tier is not your destiny, so said the Prime Minister yesterday, trying to reassure people in England. But such a dramatic declaration as that hasn't been enough to stem the growing signs of mutiny among some of his MPs. 99% of the population in England will be going into the strictest top two tiers next week. And for many, that'll be a stricter regime than the one they had going into lockdown. And Tier 3, you'll remember, will see all hospitality venues closing except for takeaways and deliveries, and much tighter restrictions on household mixing. The criticism, in essence, boils down to this: by putting large areas into this one single tier, as it may be, that it's too blunt an instrument, especially when there are varying rates of infections within certain areas. And so this comes also at a time when, as you mentioned, the R rate is thought to have dropped below 1 across the UK for the first time since August. You'll hear the Prime Minister defending his new tier system shortly, but first we start this report in Bristol, one of those areas heading out of lockdown next week into Tier 3. Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol, struggling to shake off the fog this morning, much like the Prime Minister and criticism of his new tier system for England. On the one side, Bristol, on the other, beyond the mist, with notably lower levels of infection rates, North Somerset. Yet both areas now face the same strictest Tier 3 regime, to the evident frustration of some in the North Somerset town of Clevedon.
Well, it's a bit of a shock in view of the fact, Morris, the amount we've had in this area. We like Tier 1 to start with, and it's gone from that straight to 2, and now to 3. Because the Bristol area is the main one that's got the main problem, not so much down here.
I can't understand why, because round here, it's just everybody's so very, very careful.
They are views echoed by two local Conservative MPs. Former Ministers Liam Fox and John Penrose, who's married to the testing czar Dido Harding, said they supported the move to a tier system, but that they cannot agree with the way it's been applied to their constituencies. Putting the area into Tier 3 due to its commuter links to Bristol, especially when more were working from home now, isn't right or fair, they said.
So this could come from somebody like me who's...
The Prime Minister, who spent the morning learning about rapid COVID tests, defended the approach on the grounds of simplicity and clarity. But complicating matters for him, the number of his own MPs now publicly critical of the strategy, including the chairman of the influential 1922 committee of backbench Tory MPs.
I find it impossible to justify inflicting these harsh restrictions on my own constituents who have borne so much over a period of 8 months. And I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of colleagues who are in areas of relatively low incidence of COVID to support very high levels of restrictions.
Back in North Somerset, a new Tier 3 system was a chance to reduce the pressure on the NHS, said the area's Director of Public Health. But what I asked him of government pledges to offer all such areas mass testing.
So we've been told about the offer of the mass testing, and now we're trying to work through some more detail. We're certainly interested in trying to find out what support might be available to us and where the benefits of that wider testing, how that can help to bring down the cases locally.
But you don't know what that support is yet?
We're waiting for more detail. We've had a broad indication.
The new system in England will be reviewed on December the 16th. Earlier today, one minister suggested restrictions could be eased in some areas before Christmas. But in the Derbyshire Dales town of Matlock, destined for Tier 3, such hopes were apparently dashed yesterday. It followed a ministerial briefing for local council leaders.
We were told on an East Midlands wide basis, because most of the East Midlands is in Tier 3, that it would be, and I use the phrase, very unlikely that it would be before Christmas.
What was your reaction to
that? I was shocked to hear that. It may have been an off-the-cuff remark, so I'm hoping that was a mistake. But I was shocked to hear that, and we're working so hard to get us into Tier 2.
The Prime Minister spoke of destiny yesterday. The fate of this particular row could yet be shaped in a parliamentary vote next week.